Hello and welcome to English Podcasts with Mohammed Korbatli. I am your host, Teacher Mohammed, and this episode is part of a series of podcasts about IELTS. Today, we're talking about global warming and climate change, a very important topic that often appears in the IELTS speaking, writing, reading, and listening sections. If you are a B1 level English learner or above, this episode will help you learn useful ideas, vocabulary, and structures for discussing environmental issues. So let's get started. First, let's answer the question, what is global warming? Global warming is when the temperature of the Earth increases over time. This happens because of something called greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, CO2, and methane. These gases trap heat from the sun, making the earth warmer. So let's break down the vocabulary for this topic into a small list. First, we have global warming. That's when the earth becomes hotter over time. Next, greenhouse gases. These are gases like CO2 and methane that make the planet warmer. Next, carbon dioxide, CO2, a gas produced when we burn coal, oil, or gas. Next, we have fossil fuels. These are things like coal, oil, and gas that we burn for energy. Finally, climate change. These are long-term changes in the Earth's weather. For example, imagine you are in a car on a hot day. If you close the windows, the car becomes very hot because the heat stays inside. That's what happens to our planet when greenhouse gases trap heat. This process is similar to, but is not exactly the same as how greenhouses keep their plants warm. Now let's talk about the causes of global warming. Why is the Earth getting hotter? First, we are burning fossil fuels. We burn coal, oil, and gas for electricity, transportation, and factories. This releases carbon dioxide, CO2, and other greenhouse gases into the air. Next, we have deforestation. Cutting down too many trees means less CO2 is removed from the air. Next, pollution from factories. Factories produce toxic gases that go into the atmosphere and increase temperatures. Next, we have overuse of cars and planes. Cars, trucks, and airplanes burn a lot of fuel, making the air dirtier and leading to global warming. For IELTS Speaking Part 3, you might be asked, what are the biggest environmental problems today? And you can answer, one major problem is global warming because it makes the planet hotter and causes serious weather changes. It therefore threatens the survival of humans on Earth. Now let's talk about what happens because of global warming. The effects of global warming are very serious. We have extreme weather. That means more hurricanes, storms, and heat waves. Next, we have melting ice caps. The North Pole and South Pole are melting, which makes sea levels rise. Next, forest fires. Many forests are burning because of hot temperatures. Finally, we have water shortages. Some countries don't have enough clean water because of less rain, resulting from global warming. Now let's consider an IELTS speaking question example. The examiner might ask you, what are the effects of global warming? And you might answer, global warming causes extreme weather, such as hurricanes and heat waves, It also melts the ice caps in the North Pole and South Pole, which makes the sea level rise. Now, the good news is that we can do something about global warming. Here are some solutions. First, we can use renewable energy. We can use wind, solar, and water power instead of coal and oil. Next, we can use less transportation. We could walk, cycle, or take public transport. Next, we can plant more trees. Trees absorb carbon dioxide and clean the air. Finally, we can recycle and reduce waste. It is always good to use less plastic and waste less food, because creating plastic and food often leads to global warming. Now let's think about a possible IELTS writing example, task 2. You might be asked, what can governments do to reduce global warming? And you could start by writing, governments should invest in renewable energy, such as solar and wind power. They should also create laws to reduce pollution from factories and homes. So let's review what we learned today. Global warming is when the Earth gets hotter because of greenhouse gases. It is caused by burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and pollution. It has serious effects like melting ice caps, extreme weather, and water shortages. We can help by using renewable energy, reducing waste, and planting trees. I hope this episode helped you learn new vocabulary and useful IELTS ideas and structures, especially those related to the topic of global warming and climate change. Thank you for listening to this podcast with me, teacher Mohammed Kurbatli. See you next time.